what's going on, everybody? This is Micah just checking in with another video log on my progression in the off-season or building phase of my progression. And so I'll give a little bit of update on my training and my nutrition, how it's changed in these last couple weeks, and then what I'm actually looking forward to in 2015 or even towards the end of the year with the team that I'm working with, and just some updates on what that looks like. But just first off, with my training protocol, I've actually changed that up in these last 2 weeks, and I was doing moderate to high volume protocols before, and just after a lot of speaking with some of the natural pros and their philosophy on training, I kind of lean towards more volume and just hitting up a lot of reps, a lot of sets, and just kind of focusing on mind muscle connection, slow and controlled movements, full range of motion, just getting a lot of blood flow into the particular muscle groups that I was working. That was working out really well, and then these last couple weeks I just felt a little bit stalled out with my progression, just in the gym, with my weight, even with my nutrition. My weight is currently at 166 pounds, and it's about 11 pounds up from my stage weight, this last June, so roughly around 11 pounds in a 9-week period, which is really nice and nifty. I mean, typically my maintenance or my happy weight is around 160, 162, so just to be up a few more pounds is really nice, and where I'm at. And so with my current training, what I'm doing is kind of going back to German volume training, which is basically 10 by 10 sets of and 10 reps, and keeping the same weight within each movement. And typically you want to stick with compound movements, so I do a lot of flat bench, I do squats, I do deadlifts, I do overhead presses. I also incorporate some bent over rows as well. So I typically do upper body on Mondays, and Tuesdays I do lower body. And so that's been working out really well. I don't typically do a lot of auxiliary work or isolation movements, but if I have a little bit more juice in the tank, I will work those in after I've done my 10 by 10. And so far it's going really well. My joints are definitely a lot happier since I've kind of moved towards more volume and not necessarily focusing on a lot of heavy weight. And so looking at my nutrition, actually with my other Wednesday through Saturday, I'm doing a typical training, bodybuilding training split. So Wednesday I'm doing chest and tris, Thursdays I'm doing back and bis, and Fridays I'm doing leg day. Saturday I'm actually doing some shoulders, traps, core work, and a little bit of arms, just to get a lot more volume in those areas. And so just some fine-tuning Wednesday through Saturday, and so far it's been going really well. I like being able to switch it up, especially within my hypertrophy days or my bodybuilding training splits. So I typically don't hold true to I'm going to go in there and hit one exercise and just kind of follow a set routine. I tend to hold true to some of the exercises that I can feel it in, and I just play around with drop sets, supersets, really trying to maximize my efforts with getting a lot more volume. And so that's been going really well. My nutrition, I was at 500 gram carbs, 75 gram fat, and 200 gram protein, and I got to the point where I was eating every 2 to 3 hours, and because I typically don't like eating huge meals all at one time, so I do spread it across the board, but I was feeling full all the time, and I was preparing a lot of food, and I just feel like I need to give myself a little bit of a break with my calorie load. And so I did this last year where I did really high calorie, and then the next month I would drop it down to maintenance calories and just hold steady with my current weight. So that's what I'm going to do. Is I'm going to, for the next 2 to 3 weeks, I'm going to keep my macros at 425 gram carb, 65 gram fat, and about 205 gram protein, give or take 5 grams, since my weight has increased. So my fiber is about 40 grams. It's really easy for me to get the fiber, and my hydration, my water intake is about 2 gallons a day. So it's not just about following your protein, carbs, and fats, but I make sure that I get my fiber in and I get my water intake in there as well. As far as cardio goes, I'm actually only doing about 2 to 3 days a week of cardio, about 15 to 20 minutes. I tend to do HIIT type training. I either use the stair climber or I use the treadmill. I just kind of vary it up depending on what I feel like doing. But I don't like to just take it completely out of my training protocol, even if I'm on my building phase, just so that I can keep up with cardiovascular health. And just kind of, it feels good to do some cardio, to be honest with you. And so that's currently where I'm at. Once I'm done with the current macros, my lowered macros, I'm gonna actually, I'm debating to just bump it up to what it was before, or just actually increase it a lot more, because the idea is I want to be at a super high level, the highest amount of calories before I start contest prepping. This will actually help with keeping my sanity as I go through my prep, because the higher the calories, the higher the macros that you're at starting off, the easier you can as you hit sticking points, as you hit plateaus throughout your contest prep. So I'm really hoping that I can be a lot higher than I was last year. Last year I was about 3,500 calories. I'm hoping that I can get close to about 4,000 or a little bit above that, just to start off the season off right, and that way I don't have to dive really low into my intake those last few weeks. But I'll dive more into that as I get closer and closer to prep time. I also want to go into my supplementation. A lot of people do ask me, like, Micah, what do you currently do for supplementation? What's the best pre-workout, or what do you recommend for supplementation? And I always go back to 2 questions. What's your current training, and what's your current diet? If these things are not on point, if these things are not where they should be, that's something that you really need to focus on first. First and foremost, supplementation is not going to supplement a bad diet or an inconsistent routine of exercise. It's really trying to maximize your efforts with those 2 areas first, before you even think about adding in supplementation. So those are the questions that you should be asking before you even think about supplementation, and really what your goals are. For us natural athletes, it's not necessarily about the supplementation. All those things, they're really nice to have. It's not necessarily needed if those things are on point. No. As I get into my contest prep, as I get closer to a show, obviously my supplementation is a little bit higher, just because I want to make sure that I'm keeping healthy as much as possible as my body fat comes down to extreme low levels. But currently what I'm doing is I'm doing creatine monohydrate, about 5 grams per day. I don't see how you don't necessarily need to load for yourself. You don't need 10 grams a day when you first start off. It's not necessary. The idea is just to get 100% saturation in the muscle, and you can do that with 5 grams. It's nothing pretty, it's nothing strongly advertised, but it's the most researched out supplementation that you can use with creatine monohydrate. You don't need fancy creatinine, you don't need buffered creatine. Your body can do really well with just creatine monohydrate. So that's what I take, and also I don't take it out of my diet, I don't take it out of my routine. I just keep it year round. And also with whey protein, I do have whey protein. I typically, this last season, I got to the point where I was consuming most of my protein, if not all, through food sources. If you can get it through food sources, by all means do it, because I would prefer eating over just drinking a shake. I do tend to take in protein shakes when I'm a little bit more flexible in my diet, or if I have You know, if I have a little bit less fats and carbs to deal with towards the end of the day and my protein is a little low, I will hit up a protein shake. I do not depend on protein shakes daily. Those are just, you know, things that can help out with convenience and if your macros are a little bit on the lower side. And so typically in my contest preps, it was so much easier to just get it through through my food intake, and you know, that tended to help out with feeling fuller. If I just drink a shake, I'm definitely hungry within like 10 minutes. So it's if you can get it through food, that's what my recommendation would be. But of course, there are times where you need it. Also, I take in branched chain amino acids, glutamine. I mean, these things just help out, you know, for myself. You know, keeping focused, you know, making sure that I'm helping out with muscle protein synthesis with the leucine, and you know, just helps out tremendously, especially when I'm contest prepping. I've noticed a significant difference with the way that I can keep going with branched chain amino acids. Is it necessary? Not necessarily, and you can, you know, for yourself see how that works out. But I basically get that. I mean, it's really cheap. It's not anything that is going to break the bank, but I've noticed significant changes with that. I typically don't take pre-workouts. I don't really like them. I don't see it necessary for me to intake before going to the gym. You know, if people send it to me, if companies send it to me to review, I will by all means do it, but I don't feel it's a necessary thing that should be in your deal. And typically your body gets adjusted to it, so it kind of stinks that you kind of have to continue to add dosages just so that you can feel the same effect. But you know, it is what it is for that. Other than that, I mean, I really keep it simple too. Fish oils, I tend to take a multivitamin just to help out with covering all my bases with micros. Even though I'm getting a variety of foods, it's still, you know, just to cover my bases. And you know, so you know, with that, my nutrition, since it's been changed up, it's really nice that I get a lot more variety of foods. And that's the thing for me. I don't feel like you know, I'm so deprived. You know, I feel huge difference with having more flexibility, a lot more variety in my foods. You know, with chicken and broccoli, chicken, asparagus, fish, and just brown rice and sweet potato. I mean, don't get me wrong, those things are really nice to have, staples in my diet, but it's really nice to know that I can still search out other recipes, substitute, and really be a lot more flexible within my nutrition. And that's really helped out with my social life, my family life, and you know, it makes me feel a little bit more human, you know, with my current situation. And that's really what it's about, is sustainability. If you can continue to eat your chicken and broccoli and your fish and, you know, all that stuff, the typical 8 to 10 foods in a bodybuilding or, you know, a competitor's diet, that's totally fine. But for me personally, I find that I get a lot more life balance. My mental health is a lot better as I'm being a little bit more adventurous and just taking risk with how my body responds to certain foods. You know, and so that being said, looking at the future, you know, so I'm still planning on competing next year. There's a show in April of 2015, so I am you know, going to see how I am with my progression during the month of November, and I'll probably start contest prepping December 1st. I mean, that's kind of, I've given myself a good window, about 20 weeks, to kind of start that process. I may, you know, debate on where to start, but I feel that right now my weight is really nice. It's in a nice place where it's not super high. I wouldn't have to cut a lot of body fat at this point to step on stage, and that's really what I really want to do. I don't want to just get super fluffy in the off season and have to contest prep for a long period of time. And although I do like the slow and controlled you know, progression of a longer prep, I want to start off at a better start, so higher macros and not be, you know, super fluffy when I start. And so looking at the team that I'm working with, the Iron Angels and Iron Beast, and we're just kind of promoting the natural way of competing and just sustainability, life balance, and really what that looks like. So I'm working with Tammy and Sharon. These individuals have been coaching people for a long period of time in the natural world, and it's really nice to kind of learn from them. But they're really open to having me kind of lead the the men, the Iron Beast side of it. And so we're going to collaborate and figure out posing classes, even nutrition training, what that really looks like on the whole process, and where people are starting. And so it's really exciting, to kind of work with individuals on their personal journeys. It's not even, for me, like I really love competing for myself, but also, I got into health to help people, and it's been really, refreshing for myself to kind of go on that one-on-one basis and, start that process and helping other people achieve their goals. And so during this next upcoming week, I'll be meeting with them and figuring out really what that looks like on their end, what they envision, what I envision, and kind of collaborate and make something that's something going to be very special. And so I already came up with a spreadsheet with all my equations for metabolic equations, macro breakdowns, depending on where a person is at. So I'm really excited. I got that all undertaken, because usually I just kind of calculate things out and I don't have a spreadsheet for it. So now I'm getting a little bit more excited with that. I also got some skin fold calibers. I mean, these aren't the cheapy, rinky-dink ones. These are the ones I used in college, just to help out with consistency. And I understand there is a percent of error, like 3 to 5%, depending on who does it. But to be honest with you, hydrostatic weighing is pricey. And as long as we get a baseline and the consistency of somebody doing it each time, same person, I believe that you can still get some accurate results and some data to play around with, to analyze. And so, as that rolls out, definitely be posting more information about that. But that's basically where I'm at with my current situation. So I'm excited to not only be training myself and playing around with my macros and my progression in the off season, but also helping other individuals play around with kind of making sure that they're making progression and really what they're wanting to achieve, either stepping on stage or just overall health. I mean, that's kind of what it's all about. And so that's just some updates on where I'm at, my progression. I am still in process of making my other nutrition video on macro breakdowns. I know that's been something that I've been wanting to discuss with people, especially on my channel, and just trying to kind of see where my views are and how I calculate things. But it really comes down to person to person. So when I make that video, I'll make that very clear that it's more general guidelines, and as you work with your personal progression, that's when it becomes a little bit more personal with how you approach it with your macros. So other than that, thanks for checking in. If you have comments, questions, suggestions, please leave them in the comments below, and I will definitely address them in future videos. I definitely appreciate anybody and everybody that's watching my videos. This is my personal journey. This is my things that I love to discuss and am passionate about. So by all means, thank you for following and seeing where my progression is. But other than that, thanks for checking in. You guys have a great day. Bye-bye.